Koze Daily Brew. Today, I thought it would be fun. I am taking some of your guys' requests, and today we're going to be talking about tarot. Now, I am a little bit hesitant, I guess is a good way to put it, when it comes to talking about tarot online. I think because of when I first started getting into tarot, there was just like a lot of mixed reviews in terms of how other people felt about it, and I know it's just one of those things that not everybody is going to see eye to eye on. So if that is you, if you are someone that just like really doesn't understand it or really doesn't like tarot or thinks anything against it, then this video is definitely not going to be the video for you. But that said, if you guys are a little open-minded to it, or if you have ever been curious about it, I figure it would just be fun to basically tell you guys how I use like tarot and horoscopes in my day-to-day life, and give you guys like a little brief history in terms of like how I got into it and where I'm kind of at with it and what my beliefs are surrounding it. Does that make sense? So as I mentioned, I've always been into horoscopes, okay? But I got more so into tarot personally, I would say at the beginning of 2018. I had tarot readings done before. I think that just the whole mystical side or spiritual side of mystical myths and beliefs and stuff has always been like a little hair woven just thing in my family. Like, I remember my mom kind of being into it, and just in general when I was younger, I remember like aunts kind of being into it. Like, no one was really fully into it, but I knew about it, And then when I got older, I think it was 2013, I got my first ever like tarot reading done for me, and that was kind of like the opening of the door. And then it took about a few years. When I lived with Maggie, I remember getting Maggie like a zombie inspired tarot deck, and like back then we didn't really know what it was. We were just kind of like, this seems like a really fun, cool thing, and we had both gotten tarot readings done, and long story short, it just became this like interest of mine, this curiosity that got piqued in me, kind of like the curiosity that gets piqued in me when I go to read my horoscope. So I've always been super into my horoscope. I've always really related to being a Pisces, and now that I'm older, if you guys have the Koze app, after downloading that app and putting in my full birth chart, now that I know not only what my like rising sign is, which is clearly Pisces, but also just like where all the other planets were in alignment when I was born, I just find that stuff super interesting. There is no science necessarily that backs it, but that said, I think that if you can pull any kind of good inspiration from something, then it's worthy to you. It doesn't necessarily have to have physical, tangible proof. It just has to, I guess, create a good energy effect in your body. And to me, I think that anything that spikes any kind of curiosity, any kind of motivation, any kind of inspiration, or even just like a level of, like, for instance, if my horoscope tells me that it might be a bit of a challenging day and just to relax into it, even that in itself, whether my day ends up being challenging or not, maybe it'll cause me to look for challenges or maybe it won't, but either way, I'll go into anything that day thinking like, okay, maybe I should just relax a little bit. So it's kind of almost just like a little blurb of kind of inspiration or wisdom that you can potentially take into your day, and sometimes it might fit better than others. Now, as for tarot, I got into tarot in 2018. Now, there is a lot of contradicting opinions on tarot. There's some people that might believe that getting into tarot can be dark. Now, I've never necessarily experienced that myself, and all I can share is based on my own experience. But from what I've experienced from tarot and the takeaway that I have with tarot, it's kind of like this. The way that I see it is we have a conscious brain and a subconscious brain, and a lot of the things that we do every single day actually comes from our subconscious, not our conscious brain. We don't consciously choose, to perform bad habits. There's just a lot of things that we don't consciously choose. I think that they are kind of embedded in our brains, and so a lot of the times when we notice something or when we become alert to something, it means it's usually triggered something in our subconscious. So how does that tie into tarot? I think for me, when it comes to flipping cards and such, and then reading the meaning behind the cards, anything that piques my attention, anything that seems relatable in any kind of way, is kind of like me peeking into my subconscious. So in a lot of ways, it's not even so much about the cards as it is about your interpretation of the cards. And that's why, to me, I've never really experienced any like darkness from it per se, or any kind of like anything scary with it. There's been times that I think that, like, even just with Larissa, there's been times where we've done tarot readings together and like specific cards will come up multiple times, or like 2 or 3 times in a row, and that will kind of be like a whoa moment where it's kind of like deja vu, where it kind of freaks you out a little bit just because it feels so, what were the odds? I think that's about as far as it gets for me anyways, in terms of getting ever like scary. I wouldn't even say dark, just scary. But it's not even scary. It's really just kind of more like, that's crazy. It's crazy. Crazy is a better word. So I got my first tarot deck from my sister. She actually got it for me for Christmas 2017 going into 2018. So that was when I started using, it's the Krans Wild Unknown Tarot deck. That's the deck that I originally started with, and then halfway through the year, about this time last year actually, when I was going away to BC, just a few weeks before, I don't remember exactly why or when, but I picked up the other Krans book, which is the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit Guidebook, and this is one that I think I ended up being more drawn to, and still to this day I feel like I'm a little bit more drawn to the Animal Spirit deck than the tarot deck. I feel like this video might end up being a little longer than I anticipated, so hopefully you guys have a big cup of coffee, but I'm gonna go really quickly into the difference between the two. So the tarot deck is based on wands, swords, pentacles, and cups. So that is technically in a lot of ways like the 4 elements, and then you have your like fathers, your mothers, which are known as like kings and queens in the original or the OG tarot decks, but in the Krans deck it's mother, father, daughter, son. So the 4 elements, the swords, wands, cups, and pentacles make up the minor arcana in the deck, and then the major arcana are cards like judgment, cards like the world, and these tend to be more overarching themes that are going on when you pull those cards. Now, as for the Animal Spirit deck is a bit different because it's actually broken down into the elements: water, earth, fire, and air. And then there are the spirit decks, which again are kind of like the overarching themes, or maybe like a bigger picture as to what might be going on when you pull those cards, such as the sea serpent. Like this one isn't an actual animal, this one is one of the actual bigger spirit cards, and all of the spirit cards tie into the different chakras. So maybe that's why I got more into it. I don't know. Maybe it's also because I just really like animals. I don't know. I just tend to pull this deck more often than my tarot deck. That said, in the last week or so, I've been trying to just pull 1 card from each every single day and then just leaving it out. And at the end of the day, just being curious if anything that piqued my attention. Bentley is knocking over pillows. And then at the end of the day, I kind of just like look at my cards again. I see if anything that piqued my attention in the morning ended up being something that was useful or, you know, connected to my day in any way by the time that my day's over at night. So this morning when I pulled my cards, I pulled apparently like a very deep reading, I guess, today, because I pulled the World card from my tarot deck, and then I pulled the Sea Serpent from my Animal Spirit deck. And so the World card is one of the major arcana in the tarot deck, and the Sea Serpent is a spirit card in the Animal deck. So this is like a big overall theme maybe as to what's going on, versus like yesterday when I pulled the Crocodile and the Four of Wands, you know? So this card, or this reading today, is a little bit more, I guess, overall or bigger or spiritual in a way. Does that make sense? I'm not probably doing the best job at explaining this, but I'm no expert. So here's basically how I do it. In the morning when I grab each deck, I'll pull these 2 out, but I'm gonna pull one with you guys now because I feel like we've got good energy going, and why not? I'll randomly think of a number that pops into my head. Like right now 4 just did. So I'll shuffle the deck 4 times. Depending on how much time I have in the day, I'll sometimes go further. It's kind of just like all intuition. Realistically, again, I think that as long as your intentions are good, there's not really any like wrong way that you can use tarot as long as you're gaining something out of it. So I shuffled it 4 times, and then I'll usually flip the card at the top. So it's the Son of Wands. That is usually, from what I have gathered so far, it's like the knight in shining armor, but sometimes perfection can be an illusion. So hey, I don't know how we can tie that into today's video, but let's give it a chance. So then for the Animal Spirit deck, I don't know why 3 just popped into my head, so I'm going to shuffle it 3 times. And then when I'm pulling Animal Spirit, I think the reason why I like it more is because the way I look at it is this is like me and this is more so what's going on in my life. So tarot is more so like what is actually happening on the external side of the world, and when I pull animal spirit, I feel like it's more so what's going on internally with myself, or like the kind of animal, you know, that I need to maybe embrace in my life to go through whatever day it is, whatever reading I'm doing, and so forth. So I pulled the owl, which is an air sign. I don't have the animal spirit deck as memorized as I do with the tarot deck because I've had it longer, but the owl stands for this: abundance, clairvoyant, and treasures. There's like a longer blurb as to what it's about, but basically what it's saying is that when the owl card appears, it's an omen that a boon or a treasure is on the way, either in spiritual or material form. With owl wisdom on your side, you will see and know exactly what to do with this boon. When you're in balance, you're generous, trusting, and secure, but when out of balance, you have money quarrels or scarcity, and to bring it into balance, you need to give an offering. So I think that's another reason why I kind of like the animal spirit deck, is it does the whole in balance, out of balance, and to bring it into balance. So it's like a good action item right away to do with the animal spirit deck. And then if I were to look at these two cards side by side, it almost kind of seems like, you know, internally there might be like a treasure or a boon coming, but maybe in the terms of a boom, I don't know. And then with the Son of Wands, it's kind of like, but perfection can be an illusion, and sometimes things might seem better than they really truly are, so don't get too lost in whatever like maybe the material treasure is, and more see it as like an internal treasure, you know? And that's kind of how I would go about making a reading of the day, or flipping two cards for the day and then taking them into my day, end of the day, checking in on them, seeing if they held any kind of value towards my day, and that's kind of that. In terms of horoscopes, I get this question still quite a bit too, and I feel like I always end up going back to the same app to read my horoscopes, and it's just the Daily Horoscope App. This is what it looks like. I check it in the mornings. I have like a little alarm. It sets off at 7:30. And then I think the thing I like about this app too is that you can actually sign in and then heart certain horoscopes if they're like really just relatable, I guess, in a way. You can heart them. They have weekly, monthly, all that good stuff. And then later you can go back and see if, again, it kind of was like relevant or not. So that's like the overall horoscope app that I use. And then I guess since we're here, why not tell you last but not least, I use Koze, and that's like the other app I was just telling you about. This is where you put in your full birth chart, what time of the day you were born, and it gives you all the planet alignments, and then it also just tells you like every day kind of where you're at. So for instance, today it's basically saying that I have the opportunity to go deeper. I have power in work, thinking and creativity, love and self, pressure and spirituality, and trouble with social life, which is probably pretty bang on because I haven't done too much social things today. So yeah, I don't know. I get a lot of questions from you guys asking about tarot, asking about horoscope stuff, asking about like, you know, just what I do in terms of that side of myself, and this is like a pretty general summary of all of those things. Now, if you guys ever want me to go more in depth in terms of readings that I do more monthly and more weekly, I can totally do that, but in all reality, it's just kind of like what I just explained to you for the daily thing. I just do different amounts of cards and spreads, and again, it's just like a fun hobby, a fun pastime, and it sometimes prompts me to like think of things to write in my journal, or think of things that might help me gain some inspiration in life, and that's just kind of the way I look at it. So there you guys have it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's Koze Daily Brew. Leave me a comment down below. Do you guys ever, you know, try tarot? Have you tried tarot? Are you into tarot? If you don't even want to talk about tarot, do you read your horoscope? And if you do, what do you use and what sign are you? And aside from that, once you've written all those questions out, I guess just continue on with your day, and I'll talk to all of you guys tomorrow. Bye guys.